with 2 grants right now with TEA. So there are 2 very exciting things that will be coming up soon. So just so you know, sometimes when our consultants are not really out there, they're working on maybe a project, and one of them is an ESL course that might be coming through TEA. We're working on developing a new manual, and then there's going to be a new online session being developed over through TEA. That's one of the things that our team is working on, and they've been doing an amazing job putting this manual together, but it takes a lot of research and time to write this. So once it comes out, you're going to see a lot of work went into it, and it's going to be a great resource for our teachers to have so they prepare to take the test. Another grant that we're working on is a multiple needs through the EL lens, serving those English learners that have multiple needs through GT, special ed, if they're homeless, migrant, anything, you name it. We're working on a project to better develop tools to help our districts when we're working with these students. So that's coming up, and we have a team working on that as well. And it's a 3-year grant, so it's going to take some time before all those resources are developed and put out there for districts to use. But it's coming, just so you know that a lot of research is going on right now, so new tools will be available soon. Okay, let me see if you're ready.
And we're working on it. Okay, you can go.
Okay, we're gonna keep going. Okay, so we have a quick activity. Yes, we have an icebreaker. I know not everybody likes icebreakers, but we know that we have a lot of people that are new in the room. And we want to provide you a quick venue to get to know each other, so that hopefully after the end of today, you have one new person that you have met, so that you have somebody else to call in the case that you are just stuck and you need help. So the team is passing some bingo sheets right now. So basically, you have a few things to answer. There's some questions for you. And we're going to ask you to stand up in a minute and find at least 3 people that meet the characteristics on the bingo.
So you just need it's a bingo scavenger hunt. You're drawing somebody. The idea is to complete the bingo card, and you just have them initial by the box and then
Okay, we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. And we're going to start with Sonia, please.
That was a fun activity. Okay, Title III updates. This is new to me this year, and I'm still going to have Jennifer along the way helping. But I am taking this over so that she is not as busy as she was. Okay, kind of give her some time to catch up with her 300 emails. Okay, so I have some links up here for you. And the first 2 have to do with the tool that was provided by the agency, by TEA, okay, for planning purposes. So let me give you a minute to go through each of those. The first one has to do with parental outreach, okay, and then the second one has to do with both family engagement and community engagement. Okay, so let's be clear about the 3 different events. So the first one, and click on it on your own, but the first one for the parent outreach, this is for parents, and one activity for parents. So it could be ESL classes, it could be something that's going to help the parents, maybe how to help their children at home with homework, anything that has to do with parents in order to help their students become proficient in English, right? That's our goal. Okay, so the second one and third one, family engagement and community engagement, that is one tool. Okay, the agency put it together. So that's one tool, and it helps again with the planning. When we talk about family engagement, is incorporating parents and their children. So programs like the Latino literacy program and other programs, okay, maybe parental parenting kind of programs, then you can have those for them. Now the community, it's not specific to students. It can be for students, okay, and it can be for parents, but it's not necessarily for parents and students together. Okay, so think about community resources that you can bring in to your schools. Maybe there could be a partnership with high schools on maybe offering students jobs. Okay, how would it benefit the student and how would it benefit the community? And it could be for parents. Okay, finding out different resources out in the community for parents. Okay, so it's 3 different events. It is into planning tools. Okay, and it starts with the assessment. What are the needs of your LEA, your local education agency, whether it's ISD or charter? What are the needs? What did we do last year? And then send out a needs assessment. And that's part of the tool. And then you start the planning. Okay, and the far out more you plan, the better it'll be because you'll have more time to spend on the planning. So I also have a folder in during our in our presentation, and it's a Title III folder, and I put all these items in there as well. So it's your Part A, family community engagement. It also talks about professional development for teachers and when you can use Title III and when you cannot use Title III. So if you have more specific questions, my session in the afternoon is going to be about Title III. So if you have questions about that, we'll meet in the afternoon and hopefully clarify some of your questions. The next one is our Title III Google site for Region 10. We'll make note of that as well. Any updates will be added here throughout the year. And then if you would like, and I would much like you to be, part of my listserv, okay, for Title III, any updates, anything, or any questions, then here is the Google form for that, for registration. So when we send out a listserv regarding Title III, you'll receive that email. So the ABCs of using Title III. Okay, it's got to be addressed in your application. So go back to your application that I believe was due in June. Benefit students that identify EL and or immigrants, because it is possible to have an immigrant that's not an EL. So it addresses immigrants, students less than 3 years, right? And also ELs. So the costs have to be necessary and reasonable. We can have that conversation individually if you need. And it has to be supplemental. It is in addition to what you're already doing. So if you're doing something for all students, that is not supplemental. It's got to go above and beyond what you're currently doing, specific for ELs and immigrants. And I also have a little cheat sheet in the folder, so you can look at some scenarios. Is this allowed? Is that allowed? So if you did not have Title III funds, would the activity still be planned and implemented? And if it's yes, then you cannot use Title III. This is, again, going above and beyond. Supplement, not plans. And will only ELs and or immigrant students benefit from this activity or service? So, talking about expenditures and what is allowed. How's the expenditure reasonable and necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of the program? Remember to always keep your planning, your sign-in sheets, your PowerPoints, anything that you sent out or gave away as far as your resources. And then does the capital expense address whatever it is identified? So look again back at your plan. You can't just decide in December, oh, I think I'll make this huge expense, and it wasn't part of my plan. And then also, how is the expenditure going to be evaluated to measure a positive impact on student achievement? So everything comes back to how is it helping ELs and immigrant students? And how is it supplemental, again, to all the other programs? So the goal here is for English learners to attain English proficiency. How are you helping parents that is ultimately going to help the children? How are you helping the family that's ultimately going to help the children learn English and be academically successful? And that includes in student achievement tests. Okay, again, to improve the English language skills of learners and to assist parents and families help children. So those are two very specific outcomes for these activities. So turn to your partner and tell them what are the two goals of using these funds in your district.
It's the cherry.
So, can you send Title III funds to help with professional development or any kind of training for ELPS, LPAC, and TELPAS?
No.
Why, Joel?
It's already something that's required.
It's already required. Now, one factor that you can determine whether you can use it or not, and is it beyond what you already have to do federally? Is it beyond? So is there a professional development for a teacher that goes beyond because she is in the need of assistance beyond the other students? Can that be used? Yes. The key, and that'll be the next slide, but it has to be in the teacher's plan. You have to have it in the plan. So just kind of going over what we said earlier, and Joel also said, is that you cannot, anything that helps LPAC and TELPAS, that's required. So not for substitutes, nothing like that. Okay, so meets federal requirements. It's got to be a long-term professional development plan for a teacher. So now can you use Title III? Yes. So make sure that there's a plan already in place. And it also has to be addressed in the application. So it makes it very difficult for one day to decide, tomorrow I'm going to send my teacher to such and such. And extra duty, sub-pay for substitutes, it has to be checked off, okay, also for Title III budgeting schedule. And professional development, also attending the conference and the conference name, everything has to be added, any additional information. That's why they usually ask for a certificate when they go somewhere, training. So again, I'll be available this afternoon to speak about your certain questions or concerns. And it has to benefit limited English proficient students. So the participants, the teachers, they're the ones that need the professional development in order to help kids. And then again, costs are necessary and reasonable. So we can't go to Hawaii. I'll see you guys this afternoon. Thank you.
And I wanted to touch on something really quick. I made my wrist list. If you're doing the Title III, there is, the only reason I want to mention this is because we had a conversation with TEA, with Ricky. In the application, there actually specifically says in one of the questions, ELPS, that you could use it for, and ELPS is given as a training. The clarification for that is that it has to be above and beyond basic ELPS training. So it is in the application that you can use it for ELPS, but the clarification from TEA is that it has to be above and beyond just the basic ELPS training. So if a teacher's never been trained in ELPS, and you're giving them a basic training, you couldn't use Title III. If you're going to do something additional, ELPS in the math classroom above and beyond that basic, then it would be okay. Any questions before I get into all the wonderful state stuff? All right. Okay, so, statewide assessments, we know, I don't know, I forgot to take the coming soon off because it's here, but we did get the surprise, and some of you, when we did the end of the year LPAC training, do you remember me saying, don't throw your other ones, even though it said throw away your other tests? I said, hang on, I did not know this then, I'm just that good. So they did come, I just had heard some rumblings, and I was kind of thinking that they might go with this. So you can still use your, anything from the list of approved tests that was approved, that was on that list last year. So your Woodcock Windows, your IPT, et cetera. You can use that till the 31st. I think there's also some delay getting some materials out. After that, you're required to use Lost Links. It's a 5-year contract, so enjoy the ride. The statewide assessment for reclassification, we're hearing it's not going to be like April. It should be in the next couple of weeks or so, but we know how that played out last year. But I think because it did play out so late last year, they're a little bit ahead of the game now. But as you know, Dr. Kennedy is resigning as of October 3rd, I think, 6th. So, and I know she was really involved in this, but we will keep you posted and keep you in the know. Okay, so teams stuff. I'm getting a lot of questions, concerns about the new teams coding. These are the same slides that I shared with you last year for the most part, but we've gotten some clarification. There are going to be more teams changes coming, particularly for your EEs. There's going to be some more updates, but the updates are actually fantastic. They make our lives easier. I don't know why it took them so long to do B and F to one letter, but we've got it now. So the outdated language, they have added EL in Teams. It used to just say LEP. Now it says EL/LEP because we can't remove LEP completely. Remember in your your third and fourth year monitoring, that is not, there's no LPAC paperwork involved with that. So first and second year monitoring, we do our LPAC processes, and then we send home that completed monitoring form. The 3 and 4 is just a data pull from Teams. It's a way for them to pull their data, and then it gets put into your accountability, which is a good thing because your monitor kiddos outperform your gen ed kiddos almost pretty consistently. So that's a good thing that we're going to be able to include that. Year 5 is an ever EL code, meaning they were an EL at some point in time. So they reclassified in 3rd grade, let's say, and they're now in 9th grade, so they're beyond their 4-year monitoring, well beyond. They would be a 5, so you would know at one point in time they were an EL. However, this is not retroactive. What that means is we'll be perfect in 12 years. We'll have it all in 12 years. Right now, the only people this year, the only kiddos that should be coded a 5 are kiddos that were 4s last year. You don't go digging through all your records and pulling anybody who's ever been an EL because the state wants the clean data. So only kiddos that were 4s last year will be 5s this year. If you have an internal process for tracking your other ones, that's great. Just make sure it doesn't get mixed in with what the state is trying to pull. We'll go through some of the other pieces. The big, and I found that this tends to confuse some people. As you get used to it, I think it'll make more sense. We used to use reclassification and exits interchangeably, and actually we tended to use exit to mean everything once the kid is finished programming. The distinction is there's a very clear distinction now. When a student goes from being an English learner to English proficient, so they've met all of the criteria on what used to be the exit reclassification chart, or the exit criteria chart is now reclassification. Once they reclassify as English proficient, that's reclassification. Not everyone who reclassifies is going to exit. So reclassification is the student's language proficiency, exit is programming. Now, why would there be a distinction with reclassification and programming? Exactly, dual language programs. Especially you have your 2A or that goes through some, I know there are a couple of districts that have them through high school. We want those kiddos to reclassify, but we're not exiting them. They're still getting programming. An EL who's in an ESL program may reclassify, but if the parent does not give you permission, they do not exit. They stay in ESL as an English proficient student. So those are the two different, or that's the distinction between those two. And you'll hear me, I think people started to get a little irritated with it last year because they would use the word exit and I would always correct them and say reclassify, just to kind of get us used to the vocabulary. So real quick, kind of went over this a little bit last year, but I want to touch base on it again. Identification is to reclassification as placement is to exit. So we identify a student. Do you need parent permission to identify or assess for initial identification a student? No, if they put anything other than English on that home language survey, we assess for identification. Why it's very important that you make sure the parent understands what that home language survey is for. So we identify the student without parent permission. I did get an email, actually I have 480 emails. We'll talk about that in a minute. About the parent wants to opt out. The child was identified, the parent wants to opt out because there's no such thing in Texas. Once they're identified, we cannot change it. They will ask, and I'll get questions, they'll come to me, they'll come to you because they don't like that you identify their child, and then you send them to me, and I'll tell them it all, they won't like it, and they'll go to TEA, but it's all the same. If it's past that 2-week window, there's no change in the home language survey, and they're identified. To place a child, I think I said identification is, yeah. To place a child in programming after identified, you need parent permission. Yes. To reclassify a student as English proficient, do you need parent permission? No, it just happens. To exit them from the program, do you need parent permission?
I have a question on
Yes.
the date of exit. If you see,
Reclassification.
no,
Date of reclassification.
but it's the parent's signature.
That is, you reclassify when the child reclassifies. It's not the parent permission for exit. That's not the date you use. You use the date of reclassification, which is going to be the last day of the school year and the first year of the next school year. All of your kids that reclassify in a year and at the end of the year will all have the same reclassification date. Parent permission for exit, do you have an online system? Okay. This is one of the things that confused, it's not answering your question, but the parent permission, when you have these online systems, Elevation, Edugence, a few of the others, they ask you for more dates than PEAMS wants. PEAMS only asks for 2 dates. Date the child, have parent permission, and the date the child reclassified. Hold on, let me make sure I get her and I got you, Carolyn.
So we had kids that exited during the summer. But reclassified in the summer. But then we didn't get their parent signature page until after school started.
So they were 7, which means parent permission, the parent was contacted to get the result, but they're reclassified as of no later than the first day of school. They're English proficient, but they stay in the program. So they don't exit the program, but the date you put for reclassification is either your last day of school or your first day of school.
For PEAMS.
For PEAMS.
So the date that the parent signs.
That
goes
doesn't go
nowhere.
anywhere, goes nowhere. You just can't take them out of the program until you have that paper.
Unless if the program ends.
Unless the program ends, yes, you mean bilingual?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you would have to continue to serve them in ESL until you have parent permission. So if the parent, they finish the bilingual program or your dual language program, let's say 5th or 6th grade, wherever yours ends, and you've not gotten parent permission, you can't stop services. So you now have to serve them with ESL until you get that parent permission. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so for placement, the date that the parents sign the letter, is that the date that we use or the date that it comes back in the office?
Well, you don't have, and PEAMS does not do a placement date. PEAMS is identification. The parent, well, no, you do have a parent permission date. That's the date you receive parent permission. You're correct. I think there are some of the systems.
Right on there?
It's the date you have it in your hand. The date you have it in your hand is when you can start pulling funding. I'm sorry, let me backtrack for a minute. I think one of the systems, I don't know which one, I think it has an identification date, like the date you test them. I'm not sure, but the date they actually start programming, because remember, PEAS is how they pull all the data for funding. So that date is when they actually can start the program and pull funding, is the date you have the parent permission in your hand. It has to be in your hand, not the date on the form. Now remember, and I think it's in one of these slides, it can be a documented phone call or a verified email. So if you sent papers home, well, you sent paper home and it didn't get there and you're trying to track it, remember you can do that documented phone call or verified email. Especially if you got like 10,000 kids like a few of us have. I have a question over here and then I'll come right over there. You asked my question, you already asked it, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just to clarify for my own understanding. So after students are classified, then they exit because.
Maybe.
Well, we're the ones that do,
Yes.
or the ones that should, because they're not either in the language or they don't need.
You can't exit until the parent permission's in.
That's
Yes.
what I'm asking. So the date for that end date that is in PEAS is the date you get that.
The end date in PEAM is reclassification date, not exit date. So the date they reclassify as English proficient, which is either going to be everybody's going to be the last day of the school year and the first day of the school year.
Even for the parent permission and the program code?
Parent permission date is not in PEAMS. Your parent permission for exit is not in PEAMS. Which system are you using?
Each school has a parent permission because the parent permission is the date that starts funding.
Well, I don't think we have, no, we're talking the end, exit. So parent permission is on the front end. She's talking about when they get the parent permission for exit. I don't know eSchool, but Texas and Skyward, it's the date they reclassify. And then your parent permission would be a 7, so you get your letter back. Because once they reclassified as English proficient, you can't pull money for them anymore, and that's the date they stop your budget. But if you have an online system, they ask you for all those extra dates. That could get confusing. I have a cheat sheet that in the folder that I'll share with you that kind of walks you through that process as well. And if you have any questions, I'm here for the duration. I promise no surgeries this year. I've told my organs they can't stop. So email me, we can talk it through. So your 11 EL indicator codes have not changed, with the exception of the 5. And I noticed it says it's not retroactive. Now, I've done shots of each one of these, but in the folder, the LPAC folder, there's 2 resources for PEAMS code. Actually, there's 3 resources for PEAMS codes. The PEAMS presentation that was done for your PEAMS coordinators last week, I've flipped the slides that dealt with EL specifically and put that in there. This form, all in a 1-pager, it's actually 2 pages. There's processes on the first page and codes on the second page. Then TEA, our wonderful Carly, also has one. It's about 4 pages, and it's any possible scenario and how you do it. So you can use any of those resources to help you, or you can give me a call. So your bilingual program codes, still the same. ESL program codes, still the same. Few changes in language for parent permission code. So 3 is parent requested a non-EL be in the program. Requested does not mean demanded, or doesn't mean you have to. There are certain situations, give me a call if something comes up. If you're full, you've got to serve your English learners first. And so that can get a little tricky. 7 is parent or guardian did not respond. Don't hold on to your 7s. See, I advise when you're waiting for your parent permission to code it as a 7. I know TA doesn't like that, but the reality is you're waiting for the parent permission. And what you can do is you can have teams run a list for you of all your 7s, and you know what permissions you still need. So they suggested another internal process, but I think that's probably the easiest. Please, 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 with one exception, never use an 8. That means you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And I've been told it's called an audit code, red flag. The exception is for EEs who are 3, I'm trying to remember, and part-time enrolled. There's one situation where you would use an 8 for those EEs prior to pre-K, just because they don't have the code yet, and that's the code that will be changing. There's gonna be clearer codes for EE kiddos. Less than 2 hours, they code the 8, even though we know that you've had permit. You're still supposed to do the permission. It's on the early education sheet, which is also in that folder, guidance for pre-K and EE. I dropped that in the folder as well, and it tells you when to use the 8. Parent denial is your C. G is parent guardian is approved or reclassified. Proficient used to say recently, and people are like, well, what does recently mean? This is just they reclassified, so at any point in time, or requested placement of a non-EL and ESL. When would that happen? When would you use an H? Do we have non-ELs and ESL classes? Could be a kiddo didn't qualify, but the parent still wants them in there. What I see most often is the parent put English on the home language survey. And about October, the child is struggling, we have a conversation with the parent, and they're like, well, yeah, we really do speak Spanish or Arabic. Can you go ahead and give them services? At that point, if the home language survey was done 2 months before, you cannot identify as an English learner, but you can serve. This is something we did not used to be able to do. If they were a non-English learner, we couldn't touch them. So the H means you may serve, you will not get funding, because they're not an EL. But we don't really, that doesn't make our decision for us. So that would be a case in which you would use an H.
And H receive star accommodations.
Not through LPAC. The question was, can a H, a non-EL, receive star accommodations? They can through another committee. LPAC cannot grant those accommodations because they're not a language learner. Yes, ma'am.
Can they attend summer school?
Are you talking about your name before you
First grade.
They can, but you would not get funding, and you gotta serve your ELs first. So if you're maxed out, they have to be first, but yes, they would do. They just can't be considered in your account for what you get reimbursed for.
Okay.
I don't know how you would do that. We can talk about it at summer school. Talk about summer school already. We can talk about it when it rolls around. I can find out how we do that. Here are the changes. If there's a line through it, it was omitted, so we finally taken out that B and F, so no mass changing your Fs to, or your Bs to Fs anymore. However, what are you going to have to do? Make sure everything, all ESL is a K. I think your systems are supposed to do that for you, but just like your LEP, just like your monitor kiddos, where LPAC's responsibility was going to make sure we went to 3s and 4s, just make sure they're coded. That's the same thing. Just make sure they have the K. I got 3 questions.
They did not roll over. You have to go in and enter that. And if you use Texas, their updates with the K will be done sometime at the end of September update, so you can't even put it in until October.
That's the other, if you watch the TTN, they mentioned, if you're having technical issues with coding with your Ps and SIS, you're getting an error message, the first thing I would suggest you do is screenshot and send it to me, because I might be able to figure out, because we've got some new things this year. If not, if it's just your system hasn't updated yet, contact your vendor and tell them, hey, we need this. If it's not rolling over for you, well, Texas is gonna have to wait. They said they're still working on it. Let me know by snapshot, I'm sure. But if they haven't, contact your vendor. That's something that they should be able to build. They should have been able to build that in the system. But who am I? When I'm queen of the world, it's all gonna be okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on the students that reclassified that were a B or an F, do you change them to K because they're doing away with B and F?
If they're still being served, yes.
Okay, say they're not, let's do a scenario like they were an F last year.
Then you
They
would have,
reclassified 524.
there is the parent permission code is going to be either a 7 or whatever permission for exit. So you won't have a parent permission code if they're not in the L.
Okay, like Skyward that leaves it in, so it still shows up as an F. Does that matter for anything, or do we just leave it for what it was?
I'm gonna say say it doesn't matter because they're not pulling that if they leave it in there, so when they're monitored, they still have a code.
Yes.
Let's see what happens when they update it.
Okay.
Let's see what happens when they update it. I don't think it's going to be an issue because they're not pulling that data anymore for the monitored child, but let's see what happens, and if it doesn't roll over, let me know, and I'll check with TA.
So right now.
Right now, I'm just leaving one. Yeah.
No.
Okay. Any other questions about, I never thought that I would enjoy games as much as I do. It's kind of like a puzzle. I think that's why I like it. So, exceptions and waivers, E's and J's, they changed the language for the exception. We're gonna talk a little bit about that later. And they changed the language a little bit for J, because it used to say alternative language program. It still does, but now we have a little bit more guidance on what an alternative language program is. Now, here's the piece that was throwing a lot of people. If you're going to file an exception waiver, now, if you don't know yet, which is very possible, you're going to need to start figuring it out. And again, I'll touch base on the exceptions waivers here in a minute. Right now, you can have it coded, how you have it coded. That's once you figure out, oh, we have these teachers that we need to put on a waiver, they're not certified, or we can't offer the bilingual for Arabic, so we got to file an exception. It used to be that you put the program code, you put the program code of either ESL or bilingual. Now, if you're filing an exception or you're filing a waiver, your program code is going to be 0. Your program code, if you're filing, and here's why, you're going to be appealed. If the child, or you're filing an exception or waiver, for an exception, you would have to put student does not participate bilingual. It's actually going to be participating in ESL. If it's an ESL, the teacher is not certified, and you're going to put them on a waiver, you have to put 0, not Z. 0, student does not participate in ESL. Here's where you indicate what they're doing. This new field, alternative language program. So you put 0 on program code. For exception, you're going to put a 1 in alternative program. So program code will be 0. Alternative program will be a 1. If it's a waiver, ESL program code is going to be 0 and bilingual code. And your alternative program is going to be 02. And if you're not filing exception or waiver, you're going to have to put 00 because you have to have something in that spot.
Somewhere in the literature, I thought I had read that it was only the students that were in the classes that were under the exception.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so
well,
not your entire program.
No, just the ones that are under the exception. Yes. So the student is, what you're going to be doing is giving them ESL. For example, Arabic. I don't know anybody who has a dual language program or a bilingual program for Arabic right now. And yet we have many, many Arabic speakers, particularly in this area. So the exception gets filed, and those students, if that would be under that, they would have it, but your other kiddos would. Or if you offer bilingual and you can staff it to 3rd grade, but you don't have 4th, 5th, and 6th, the 4th, 5th, and 6th would be coded this way. Your ones being served will be coded that they're being served in the program. So the exception is just for the grade levels and kiddos for which you're following that exception.
Well, it is my understanding that when you file an exception, you have to file all the grade levels.
Okay, well, yes. I'm waiting for Roberto to do his video because that's what he always says is that, let's say you just hit your magic 20. So where do you have to start your bilingual program? Pre-K. So, and you're only expected to staff at pre-K and then add a year each year. The guidance in the past has been when you're filling your exception, you still have to fill the exception through your elementary grades for those grade levels that you're not required. However, Roberto said a little something different on the TTN, so I'm waiting till his video comes out to see if he's changed that. Because it seems it's giving them data that doesn't work, really, because you're not going to have those. But I think it's just for planning. Okay, your pre-kindergarten and early, I just got the sign, I'm going to try to hurry up. So your pre-kindergarten and early education, they fixed that, the distinction of terms, there's FAQ. Testing and classifying students, if they are also receiving special education services. We know that special education and LPAC, or ART and LPAC will collaborate together to see what those services will look like. So there has to be collaboration. They will be identified. That was a change in language in 2017. They shall be identified. ART and LPAC will determine programming. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, because I've asked and talked to TA specifically on this one. Previously, they had said if they were in memberships, like if it was walk-in speech, we wouldn't have to identify.
That's changed according to, starting this year, that a enrolled non-membership will be identified.
So how do we provide services if they're just coming in for walk-in speech?
And there's some guidance for that on that sheet that I dropped in there for how you provide services. It could be a consult, it's gonna look different. That's one of the things we're still waiting for some clarification on, is exactly what those services are gonna look like.
And clarification came up when we had the TPN last week. If you have the students that are served for less than 2 hours on those walk-in services, they just come for walk-in speech, less than 2 hours, 2 times a week, you will have to identify them, assess them, and code them as, if they qualify to be an EL or not. However, you can code them where they are in, they're in membership, they're enrolled, they're not necessarily membership, you cannot provide bilingual services or ESL services until they are actually enrolled in the pre-K program. So there is a specific code for those, but it's only for those students that are less than 2 hours. So if anybody that is in a self-contained classroom receiving special ed services, which is the new, it's not PPC anymore, it's ECS something. It's taking me a while to learn that new term, but if they are there self-contained, that means they must get services, either bilingual or ESL. But less than 2 hours, there's a special code.
And the parent permission code of 8 that's where they're gonna use it, and what I believe they said is that if you can't provide them, you don't have to, but you can provide. I think that you don't have to.
You can get into determination with your LPAC and our committees, and then you can start services once they actually enroll in a program.
I haven't seen any guidance on this.
I think they were working on getting the pre-K stuff out, or some of the pre-K stuff out before they were working on the SPED specific guidance. I think that's coming.
So do you all know if the home language survey and the assessment comes as part of the special ed testing?
No, LPAC would have to do it. So it wouldn't be on the SPED side, it would be on the LPAC side.
Right, but does it happen during the testing? Because a lot of the early childhood, they're not enrolled. So they're doing the testing, and then that determines if they qualify for services. So is the language assessment that our LPAC is doing, is it happening before they start the SPED testing, during the SPED testing?
As soon as they come in to start that process, do the home language survey, and that will tell you what to do from there. If they mark anything other than English, you're going to go ahead and do the assessment and hang on to it until you find out whether or not they're coming or not. And I think that's written out in that sheet. So you would go ahead, home language survey, even before all that testing, have it done, and then if they do qualify for SPED, then you already have it. If not, you hang on to it. And then you're supposed to hang on to it and then reassess if they don't enroll. And then reassess if they come back later.
You cannot test them before 3 years old.
You cannot test before 3 years old because none of the tests are normed for an age below that. You're correct.
I'm sorry, did you say ECSD now takes the place of PPCD?
It's on that, yeah, something like that.
I think it's early childhood and special education, so it's ECSD. ECSE. So instead
Or you
of
can add that little D.
preschool, they might just switch the language to early childhood to match everything else. So it's a new term instead of PPCD. Thank you.
I'm gonna put a D for education, like a little D, and call it ESET. Hey, I wanted to clarify this came up, and actually some of you it came up in the training curves. I want to make sure that we understand this. On your online enrollment systems, it says preferred language of communication. That is not a home language survey. There are some districts or charters that have been thinking, assuming that if they request their communications in Spanish, well, we don't have to do a home language survey, we're going to test and identify. That is not a home language survey. That is just what language, and they just ask for it in Spanish, and still put English on the home language survey. That happens more often than you would think. Okay, dual language and LOTE. This is just some guidance on if the child is in a dual language program for 2 years in elementary school, they do qualify for 1 LOTE credit. Is it 2 years, or they have to finish it and they get that 1 credit. To successfully, they have to complete that program in elementary school. So it's 5 consecutive, that's what I meant, sorry, 5 years. 5 consecutive years in elementary, it can start at pre-K. So you can start at pre-K, and then 4th grade, they've completed their 5 consecutive years. Achieve high levels of academic success, that is measured by STAR. And then achieve proficiency in both English and a language other than English. And that is demonstrated by using an achievement test. And you can talk with your LOTE side to see what achievement test they use. So that's going to be your norm reference test to determine their proficiency in the target language. Now, in T-Rex, this is going to be coded in T-Rex with data elements. They've changed some things to help track it. That's all here because it's leading us up to the funding, BEA. So our BEA, that's the bilingual education allotment, that's your state funding, not federal. It is for bilingual and ESL, so it'll be kind of a misnomer. If the LEA applies for exception or waiver, you are required to use 10% of your total BEA, not the 52%. Your total BEA, 10% of that for professional development for the teachers that are on the waiver or exception. That's linked to what you can use it for. No other state funds will allow you to have a coach. TEA is allowing an interventionist. Is not allowed in state allotments. TEA has said you can have an ESL or a bilingual coach as long as it's full time, 100% of the time. So that's something that's a little bit different. This is the beautiful thing. This is straight out of the House Bill 3 and has not made it into our statute yet. We get reimbursed for students in ESL or in a bilingual transitional program, you get reimbursed at 0.1. That's the factor, multiplication factor. Here's the good news. If you're running a dual language program, as research says, it's the more effective program, those students, you will be reimbursed at a rate of 0.15. So you get an extra 0.5% or 10%. I don't know. You know, it's fair. Okay, this is the cool part. You're running a 2-way dual language. You're getting for your native, whatever it's, let's say Spanish. For those students, your English learners, you're going to be reimbursed at 0.15. For the native English speakers that are sitting in that dual language classroom, you're going to be reimbursed at 0.05. If you're running a 2-way dual language program, you get double funding of the other programs. That's why your coding has to be correct in your system. This I cut and pasted from the TETN, the coding that you need to use for your funding. Yes, sir.
So if we're coding then for exceptions as alternative language programs, do we lose that money for them?
Technically no, because you can pull funding while you're on the exception or waiver because the expectation is that you're supporting those teachers while they're working on it. It'd be hard to run a dual language program though if you don't have somebody certified. So I don't think that would work. Yeah, but you're well, because you can't, if you file an exception, you can't run a dual language program. You have to run ESL. So in that case, no, it would. The teacher would have to be certified. So here's some more bilingual coding for the programs and the money that you get for them. The video on the special education or the bilingual allotment is coming out on the 26th, the 30 and 30. So that I'll go back and link this to the page on the TU website. We'll have that. Exceptions and waivers, they're not released yet. They usually come out either this Friday or it should probably be this Friday. There's going to be videos and instructions. I will be having work sessions on the other side of LPAC. So LPAC decision making is in the AM, and then I have these are in the PM, except for October 16th. That's actually 2 sessions, an AM session and a PM session here at Region 10. 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, they're on the other half, the afternoon of the LPAC. It's a work session. So we'll go, like we did last year for a few of you, where I take you through that exception exceptions, and waivers. And those are links to the resources. Okay, the new educator standards, they have been approved. I wrote that, I don't know, I didn't take, but I crossed out development and wrote approved on, but they're not gonna make it to the new test until 2021. It's earliest it might make it to the new test. So the standards are approved, the test is gonna stay the same until at earliest 2021. This is your reclassification chart, the new one. It's a beautiful thing. Your LPAC resources links, these are a few things that are in there. What else is in there? I'm sorry. I'm gonna let. You have the PEMS guidance, you have the early, the EE document in the folder. You also have your special process for special education. There was a slide, I added a couple slides, but they're not on this one, I'm not sure why. Let me talk about the comprehensive professional development plan. This is my last thing. Comprehensive professional development plan, there are two. There's one for Title III, and there's one if you're on an exception waiver. They're not the same thing. So I think there's a little confusion last year. If you're filing an exception or waiver, you have to have a professional development plan, comprehensive professional development plan to support those teachers as they're working towards certification. That's one plan. Title III, if you're going to use Title III funds to send anybody to any training, you have to have a comprehensive professional development plan because to capture the one-day workshops, they have to fit in an overall plan. So you can't just send them to this ESL workshop if it's not part of a bigger plan. Now, the one you're doing for your waivers, for example, that comprehensive, if you're filing a waiver, that could be a Title III plan as well. If your Title III plan isn't necessarily your BEA plan. But they are two different things. So when you ask about your PD plan, I'll say BEA or Title III. Okay, do you have any questions?
Can they be combined on one?
I believe that I would think that your BEA plan, if you're doing a waiver or an exception, that would make it to your Title III plan, absolutely. Title III might not work the other way though. Yes, ma'am.
Last year when we had this discussion, the guidance was given to me that if we're a T-test district, that is considered the comprehensive plan.
If you're a T-test district and the goal, the teacher goal, for example, is to improve their second language acquisition knowledge, and that's their goal, and your whatever you have planned and the sessions they're going to are in that, then yes. T-test actually sets you up for this because of the way it's the teacher goal and then the administrator goal for the teacher. If that's what it is, it fits in that plan, that's perfect. Good with this? Others? Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So as you are all probably aware, there are new standards for reading language arts, both ELA and Spanish language arts as well. This is my contact information because if you were a district that had me come out, you know that I have collaborated with ELAR to bring Spanish language arts the same kind of quality professional development, and that goes for whatever your needs may be. So just to give you an overview, this school year affects K through 8, and then high school, it won't start until 2021. And then the proclamation 2019 and 2020 for instructional materials be aligned to the revised TEAS. And I'm actually really excited to show you the TEAS guides that TEA has created. I have a link on here to that information. They also have it for Spanish language arts, so that's kind of neat. Just a real quick slide. I like this because it gives you the key changes. And the truth is that the alignment between Spanish language arts and English language arts, as you probably noticed if you do have that dual language program, or even just doing transitional bilingual, it's really, really aligned now. And the clarity is there between the vertical alignment through all the grade levels, not just within the same language, but across both languages. And it's very clear and very easy to see that the distinctions happen in composition because Spanish is a different language, and then also in foundational language skills because Spanish is more transparent and the learning to read process is different for students. But beyond that, everything else is very well aligned. The only other major thing that anyone who's incorporating Spanish language arts is going to notice is that it's really important to be able to deliver instruction at high level, that the curriculum be authentic Spanish literature, so that all of those things like idioms and concepts, cultural concepts are clear. Okay. My favorite thing about the new ELRTs has got to be that they have now incorporated the ELPs into the language of the actual standards. Okay, so the ELPs have in no way gone away. They're still very much a part of statute, right? And they're still very much a separate document and all of the other and all of the other instructional pieces, right? But in the ELAR and the Spanish language arts, you're going to see listening, speaking, reading, writing, and thinking processes written into the language. And also I love that in both of the introductions, they place that emphasis on the importance of instruction for English learners, the interrelatedness, not only of the processes that go along, right? How do we become better readers? By practicing writing, and vice versa. Better speakers by practicing listening to really good speakers. But also, they're, I guess, walking the walk and talking the talk when it comes to the actual standards. All right, so there are now 7 strands, and whereas before there were 5, and you can kind of see how reading has been separated out into foundational language skills, which now spans K through 5, really, when you talk about things like phonemic awareness, right, which is a big thing going out there this year, that how do we get those kids to develop phonemic awareness, whereas before it was more, I guess, directed towards how do we get them into a balanced literacy practice, which is also still critically important. And then the comprehension, response skills, the multiple genres are all a part of that same reading domain. Writing is now composition, and then the oral written conventions have all kind of been written into all of them. Research is now paired with inquiry, and then again, listening and speaking, they're calling it now response skills. Okay, so the strands that we're going to have revisions, they voted in June, and actually there's no major changes that are going to take place. So I want to make sure if anyone had heard about the buzz about that they were trying to make changes to this actual standard that didn't actually go through. There's very minor little adjustments in the language that they made, but nothing major, much shorter leaf. Okay. And then just to provide you with a brief overview of the strands again. They're almost identical. And then the horizontal alignment. One important thing that I want to mention, I'm going to kind of skip forward a little bit. And then I will let, oh wait. I need to refresh this, because there was something.
Yeah, I had stuff that mine that I did last night that didn't show you.
And if not, I will just talk on it. And kind of threw me off because I thought I had put some things at the beginning to
wonder if
better
there's-
frame this.
I'm wondering if there's two of them in there and added to the wrong one.
Possibly. I am gonna give you a break as soon as I'm done speaking, so I apologize.
I have one announcement after that, but. Make it.
Pull up a little bit further. Okay, to. No, unfortunately, they're not in there. I will make sure that during the break, those slides get added so that you have the link to the TEKS guide. The TEKS guides is amazing. It's a part of Texas Gateway, and if you haven't heard about them, they're available for both the ELAR and the SLAR. So even if you're a TEKS resource district and you're already really well taken care of and you've got all of that, like the specificity and the instructional focus document and all that, the TEKS guide takes it even further. And it's actually really helpful for curriculum writers because it has, like if you've adopted materials from McGraw-Hill or Pearson, it tells you which TEKS specifically are supported by that and where you can go within that adoption to develop a lesson, to develop curriculum for that. And then it goes even further into the language of the student expectation itself. And it really lets you click on actual verbs and tells you what does TEA even mean by that word. So TEKS guide, and then after the break, I will make sure to share that with you. A little bit about the ELDA and the ELA, right? So ELA for middle school, ELDA for high school. It's going to satisfy the elective credit requirements for graduation, but it's not necessarily something that you have to have. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes. The confusion between Ella and ELDA, or sometimes where I get confused, is Ella in your 7th and 8th grade will replace your English, or your English one, or your not English one. Your 7th and 8th grade English, it actually is an English not a credit, but it's an English course. This for your kiddos in ESL 1 and 2, it's the elective, and it needs to be done with ESL 1 and 2 because that's what's going to get them their English credit. It's strictly an elective.
Yes. And the thing I found interesting about that also is because TEA only supports K through 6 for bilingual Spanish in their standards, you will see that their vertical alignment document actually includes ELA in there, and and for high school, it's still referenced as ESOL 1 and 2. But the student expectations are virtually the same as they would be in ELAR. They want students to be held up to those same standards. The only difference that I've actually noticed is that at the top, it emphasizes the importance of scaffolding and taking into account their current language ability. So that's really important to know about both ELA, English Learner Language Arts in 7th, 8th grade, and ELDA for high school.
Question.
Yes.
Actually, I have 2 questions about that course. On the ELDA course, I know when it first came out, there was something said about 8th graders being able to receive high school credit. Do you know anything about that?
It's not written in there now.
Okay, so that part's out. And also, just for clarification, it says it needs to be taken concurrently with a co-requisite language arts and reading. Does that just mean an ELAR
It
class?
has to be connected to ESL 1 and 2. Is what way it reads. Are you talking about ELDA or are you talking about ELA?
Well, ELDA, right here where it says concurrently with because that's why I understood it. You need to take it with an ESL class.
Yes.
But this says language arts and reading. So it doesn't mean 2 separate courses, like this is the 3rd one. It just, I mean, that wording is kind of weird.
For example, when I was teaching and I was working with newcomers, they would have ESL 1, and then we did a reading class, and we came up with some other elective. So this actually gives us an official elective.
But this is not saying that they have to be in a language arts class and reading and
No.
okay. That's what
It can be paired with, for example, kiddos that maybe they're not ESL. Some districts don't offer ESL 1 because they have small numbers.
So the English class and this class.
Okay.
The other big important update that, again, we will make sure those slides that you need get added into this presentation during your break is that for K through 8, they now have 2 years where it's going to be a transitional, they'll only be testing the overlap TEKS. Does that make sense? Whereas before they had said just 1 year and then the following year, this one in year 2, they're going to be piloting some questions, but they will not count against those students. And that's for K-8 only. They have not said anything officially about 9-12 yet. So just to make that perfectly clear. Yes, ma'am.
So for the ELA course, 7th and 8th grade, that is geared towards which particular students, newcomers as well?
It could be for any English, can you slip back one?
Yes. Yeah.
It could be whatever, it would be, it's primarily designed for your lower level, your lower proficiency students, but you can use it. Districts can kind of figure out how they're going to use it. One thing I did want to mention, what grade level is not on here? 6th. It will not qualify for 6th grade. 6th grade has to be regular English. There is no ELA for 6th grade. But then in 7th and 8th grade, district can decide whether they're going to do regular English or ELA, which it just adds that targeted language proficiency. And you can decide to do it. I believe the intent was for lower proficiency level newcomers, but I had newcomers that were advanced high, and they would have been in there too.
Well, and as you're aware, there's a crisis of long-term ELs happening in many districts. And so this is a situation that would be perfectly suited to help those students a little bit more transition from whatever program model they're coming from K through 6, and having the support they need to be able to meet the expectations where they're supposed to be in 7th and 8th grade in English language proficiency.
We're gonna take a break, but I
wanted to mention 2 things. I'm gonna go in, we had 2 of these working, and I think the one that got put in the folder is the one I was updating, I know, at 11 o'clock last night. So we're gonna put in the new one. And then second, I think a lot of people got an email saying I was out. A new one, like on Thursday, and then it's sent out like 4 times. I don't know who's doing that. I am here, but again, with the 480 emails, the team did fantastic with answering. But if I missed an email, or your email was missed, or you have a question, would you just resend it to me? Because I'm gonna take all that 480 and put it over here and start doing. That way I won't miss you. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix this on here. How long a break, Emma? 10 minutes? So it is 10:26. So see you back at 10:36.
somewhere, and so we just all kind of lost track of him. So I don't know what, I don't know anything. You think they are,
Just a quick reminder, also, if you're having signing sheets that are prepared next to the.
Yeah, but now, what she said actually went is, yes, my second grader screen, my teacher. That's on the big screen. Yeah, so I'm gonna highlight. They know, they know. But out of the system. So, if TV. Not robust. But it okay. There is a test to build with so there's no one you that's my I know, we need to talk about it. Nice to meet you. I've not been to her office. Oh, no, I'm not. I want to give it a check. It took me like a day for I'm the ESL teacher. I'm the ESL teacher. And I think I'm the same too.
We'll do a countdown, so everybody has a minute. From 5, 4, 3, I can't get over my elementary school strategy, sorry. 2, and 1. Okay, so just real quick, I apologize that this did throw me off, that those slides were missing, and what I really wanted to share with you has a lot more to do with like the instructional piece. What are we doing to support you? So because of these important changes here, you notice writing, those assessments are going to remain unchanged, 2019-2020, even though the new TEKs are there to support those more interrelated strands that reading and writing combine, right? So ideally, reading and writing are being taught together whenever possible. And then there will be those assessment items that are going to be embedded when they're testing those field test questions in the second year, and those won't count until the third year, and that's for K through 8. All right, this is the slide I promised you about the TEA Teach Guide, Texas Gateway. Like I said, just an incredible resource, and the fact that they have Spanish language arts just, absolutely made my heart happy, because as you will hear me say over and over again, the research supports that if Spanish is taught to a very high level with the same high expectations academically, that knowledge, the concepts will transfer. And that's going to take some time to explore. It was released this summer, but it's just amazing. Like I said, my favorite piece, I think, was just the fact that you go beyond in the specificity when you can click on those actual verbs and see what TEA actually means. How is this going to be taught? Going beyond the breakout document, right? And I wanted to share this with you because now the ELAR department is going to release an online training on the new standards, okay? Because of the alignment is so clean, I highly encourage any teachers that have not done either new ELAR or new SLAR to do the online training. They need to be aware of what the new standards are, and then I gladly fill in the blanks for any bilingual teachers, any teachers with a lot of ESL, a high ESL population that kind of need guided through that lens. But it's a very, very good resource there that we actually have that available coming out in October, the online training. And then, of course, the Reading Language Arts events calendar, if you see anything on there that's being offered for Reading Language Arts, and you're like, can we do this for Spanish? Talk to me. I'm interested in it. I want to collaborate. I want to help. And my connections with ELAR are, I mean, we're tight. So they can help me make it happen for you and your district. I wanted to make sure that I also share this, that we have Dr. Freddie Hebert coming out. Is it there, like Kristen? Okay, and she'll be talking about vocabulary matters, keys to unlocking complex text. So good for our English learners. That could, all students, right? But especially English learners. And there's a bit.ly to register for that. So thank you to Laura Kyle for sharing with us. And then, of course, the instructional material showcase for high school. We want representation and a voice for our students, for our population there. So please put that on your calendar if you're able to go, or send a representative. Okay, and then these are the slides that I actually covered that you've already heard. So I'm going to pass this on to Enrique.
Good morning. Before we start our fun EL accountability part of the session, I want to ask you that if you have some trouble with the slides or you cannot see the updates, please go ahead and refresh because we just fixed that a few seconds ago. So please go ahead and refresh your slides.
I had a couple that did not make it in the refresh. I'll drop it in. I'll drop it in this evening. It came from the TETN.
And if you cannot hear on this side of the room, thank you to the participant who spoke up. It completely slipped my mind to mention it, but yes, please, if you can hear us, we want to know about it, and it should be in the middle.
All right, perfect. All right. So, my name is Enrique Jolay, and I am going to talk about the EL accountability. For today, we're going to have two things, the new PBMAS. I say new because now it's no longer PBMAS. Because we like to relabel everything to make things very simple in our lives, right? Mention on director's life that you want to see how many threes, fours, maybe not, right? Twos for ones. We got in our PBMAS. Hopefully we all got zeros everywhere, right? All the PLs. So now PBMAS is turning to something called RDA, Results-Driven Accountability. So it's just, we're gonna talk about some changes. We don't know yet how this will impact in the future in terms of the different indicators that we are used to, but what I'm seeing now in the proposed manual, which is public, it's not very friendly because it has all the different components, the old components, you know, marked up, and it's not very friendly right now in this stage, but it is subject to public comment, and hopefully by October 1st or the first week of October, we'll have the changes and the manual will be finished. So hopefully we'll have our PBMAS reports towards the end of the month of October. So here is RDA, Results-Driven Accountability. From now on, it will be the name, the old PBMAS. But, and again, there is no changes in regards to the programs that RDA will be over monitoring, which is Bilingual ESL. That's number one, bless you. Number two, CTE, as usual, Career and Technical Education. Third, ESL. And fourth, Special Education Services. Quick reminder that we have LEP students, or some of our LEP students monitoring the four, different categories. So that's why we have to not just narrow down our focus on bilingual ESL, but use the other components of RDA to plan accordingly. Because there are some students that are also enrolling CTE LEP that counts for CTE, but they are ours. Does that make sense? So we have to keep in mind that there are some other components of RDA where our students intersect. Good? All right. Here are the changes. You were familiar with PBMAS in the past. These are the indicators from last year. These are the indicators that are subject to public comment. Let's start with the ones in red. We have 1, 2, 3, and 5, which are going to have some changes. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. The others that are kind of the same are 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Let's start with 1. Bilingual students between the grades of 3rd grade and 8th grade. We have the BS Star 38 passing rate. We have the same for ESL, which is indicator number 2. Indicator number 3 is ELs not serving bilingual or ESL. Those are your students coded in PIMS as 00, right? For bilingual ESL. Also, we have number 4. Here are some differences from last year. ELs, years after exit, start 3 through 8. Can you catch the difference between last year and this year? Years after exit. It's not a year after exit. It's plural. The question is, how many years are gonna be years? Well, I'm gonna tell you how many years. M1, M2, M3, and M4. Up to the 4, yes, because we want to align to our state accountability, right? So we want to include students that are our FS, right? Am I correct with the code, right? And then 3 and 4, which is coded for 3rd and 4th year after exiting, are going to be included in the years after exit. And I'm putting a lot of emphasis in this, right? Just in case you didn't notice. Number 5, ELs start in a course, the EOC. It's in red. We'll talk about that in a little bit. 6, 7 are annual dropout rate and graduation rate. That hasn't changed. And 8, 9, again, hasn't changed. It's measuring TELPAS reading beginning proficiency level rate for students who were in your district for the past 2 years. So we're talking about spring 2018 and spring 2019. Consecutive years in your district. How many? 2. So they want to measure how many of those students, that universe of students who were in your district and took TELPAS in your district, right, while they were in your district, how many they were at the beginning level. And that will give you that TELPAS reading beginning proficiency level rate. Okay? Number 9, as usual, our TELPAS composite rated levels for students in U.S. schools multiple years. What is multiple years? That has not changed. That is 5 years or more. Again, the population here that is measured are the ones who are at the beginning or intermediate composite level for multiple years, right? For 5 or more years. So that will impact some elementary schools, right? And middle and of course high schools. So but remember, this report is at the district level. We don't have campus reports, but when we disaggregate the data, we have to think about our schools. How much, if we are like here 4 schools, your school, how many students are contributing to that specific indicator? And the same with the other 3 schools. And in that way, we disaggregate the data and we can locate and see where those students are located and provide the appropriate interventions. Here are the changes. The ones that were in red, which are number 1, number 2, and number 5, we deal with the students participating in your bilingual program. That might be also non-LEP when you have a 2-way dual language program, right? Your students coded as ESL, and also the EOC, the students who take the EOC. English learners in their first years are going to be excluded, just in case. In the past, in case you didn't notice, all students were included in the PBMAS, regardless their years in U.S. schools. Now, in the proposed manual, it is stated that those students are excluded. Why? Again, we want to be consistent with our state accountability, which excludes students in year one. Does that make sense? That's the number one thing that we, discussed years ago. Why we have students excluded from one, but included in the PBMAS that were year one. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we are pretty much consistent with our district and campus state accountability. One more thing. If you administer STAR alternate 2, then they're going to be included. That's something that you have to take notes. If they are in first year in U.S. schools and they, for some reason, they take the STAR alternate 2, those scores will go into the RDA. Otherwise, year ones are excluded completely. Questions? Pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward. All right, so what else? One more thing. Something else that is new. Ooh, not this. Not that. I don't know why it's going. Oh, I thought it was my clicker. Whoa, getting dizzy here. All right. And you have to take notes of this because this has just been included in the manual. Number one, some categories for this year are going to be RO. What is RO? Report only for planning purposes. Number one, indicator number 1 will be RO. Number 2, RO. Number 3, RO. Number 5, RO. 8, RO. And number 9 is going to be RO. Okay? Again, indicator 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 9. So 6 indicators out of the 9 that we have available are going to be report only. Again, 6 out of 9 are going to be RO. There are no cut points for those that will be issued. So we don't know what they're going to be in the future, but I can tell you something. You might use as a reference what has been done in the past as far as the cut points, because from when I started, 2012, 13, all those cut points have been pretty much the same. So if they change, they're not going to change drastically. Does that make sense? So the cut point was, I think, 70, right? Let's get one in math. 70% of your EL students need to be performing at level 2 or above. Is that correct? Or bilingual, let's say, or ESL. Okay, so it's not gonna go near to 95, nor to 55. Does that make sense? So just plan according to the cut points that were issued in the past, which is pretty much the same, right? And you should be within that that error, because we don't know what they're going to be in the future. And again, those are ROs, report only, for district planning purposes only. Okay? Any questions? All right. Let's go with our indicator, sub-indicator number 3 from closing the gaps, domain 3 of our district and campus accountability, which is called what? ELP rate, English Language Proficiency Rate. Now, just make sure that we are all on the same page. This is the TELPAS progress rate. Only and only you count are included here students who are current ELs because they're the only ones who take TELPAS. Now you get a point for a student who advanced one composite level above from where he was the previous year. Or if he attained advanced high, he must, in order to get a point, be at the advanced high the following year. So the definition of progress means making that progress one composite level above, or maybe more than one, or staying at the advanced high once the student has reached advanced high. That's the definition of progress that we were given. Okay? And that's how your TELPAS, your ELP rate was calculated using those TELPAS, okay, assessments. If the prior year composite rating is not available, the second or third year prior composite rating is used because perhaps the prior year the student was not here in Texas, or for some reason he did not take the TELPAS, then they're going to go all the way back to their third year before the year that you are analyzing. Okay? All right. Now, if you noticed, the rate for ELP rate when it first came out last year, right? And we used the holistically rated, scores, which gave you a composite score, compared to the 2018, which was 75% online rated. What was the percentage of ELP rating, if you remember the target? 42. Thank you very much, 42%. That 42%, it came out with that 42% in mind when it was when that ELP rate was first born, right? Now, where is it?
36%.
Oh, we lowered the bar a little bit, right? Why? Because we're comparing now online 75% rated to online 75% rated, right? So the question is, and this is a question that I had for the past 2-3 months, where I go to districts, the first question is, what do we do with that percentage? Is it going to go higher? How do we prepare to make sure that if next year, for some reason, it goes above 36%, because it will go above 36%. Remember, in past years with accountability, the target, what? They go up, 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 and up, right? 5% points, 4% points. It really depends on how, as a state, we are going to score in TELPAS. And if we get better, that bar is going to what? Go up. So what we need to do is, when they ask me that question, so what do we need? We need to build cushion. Meaning we need to set our goal not in 36%. We need to set our goal to do that, into that 100%. That will give you enough cushion. Even if your ELP rate is sitting at 43, 45%, and if you're not a large district, remember that every single student counts much more than in a bigger district. The MSR for calculating the ELP rate is 25. And if you're a district that altogether are like 24 or 23 tests, you only need 3 or 4 more students, and then you're going to be accountable for it. Does that make sense? So now, let's go not just from the district level, but a campus level. If your campuses, I call it the highly sensitive campuses, right? They are in between the range of 25 till, I think that we did the math with one district that I met a couple of weeks ago, to like 90 and 100 borderline. Every student counts a lot. Do the math. So you just need 3 or 4 students, or maybe 1 student for your ELP rate to be met, or perhaps not met. So we have to make sure that we do our data analysis at the district level and at the campus level, so we can put those interventions in place, especially if you are a medium or a small district and you are kind of figuring out the processes, the different interventions, the strategic support plans, that, or strategic student plans that we're going to have per student. If we don't go per student, then we don't get the most of out of that ELP rate. So we have to have a plan for each of our students to make sure that every teacher understands what linguistic accommodations they need, what strategic interventions they need to receive or they are receiving in other classes so they can plan accordingly. It's like we are all in this together type of plan. And not just teachers, administrators. Because if you think about who is going to be with those students every day? The teacher. And who is somehow monitoring that everything that needs to happen happens? The administrator in campus, right? So that's why this ELP rate, which is just 10%, but that, remember, that 10% gives you 10 points. Either it gives you 0 or 10. Look at this example. What do you see there? What if this campus or district would have had 1 here? How many points? 87. So that can cost you a letter in domain 3. Now, what is the percentage in domain 3? 30%. Imagine now 30% with a better letter grade, it can affect the whole campus or the whole district. I've seen it. I've gone to those campuses. I've been to those districts where those highly sensitive campuses, right, contribute or do not contribute using that formula. Okay? So again, it's 10%, but that 10% can cost you a letter grade as a whole campus and as a whole district. So imagine that your campus would be the only one, or a campus C or D would be the only one. But if not, and because of those 3 or 4 or 5 situations, the whole district did not get a better grade as a whole. And it can happen. I've seen some situations this year. Okay? And that's why I wanted to include this domain 3 to bring that to your attention, that it's very important. Even though it's 10%, that 10% sometimes is what makes a difference. Right, this is how it's reported. Like, for example, this school, oops, sorry. One more thing. This school right here had 77, right? 0 in ELP rate. The threshold is 36%, and the progress rate was 26%. The total TELPAS submitted were 367. The ones that met growth, 97, and that is the 26%. So there is still 10% points under. Now, if you do the math, how many students would they need to reach that 36%? You want to do the math? How much is 0.36 times 367? Do the math. I think it's going to be just 100 and something, right? The math says 0.36 times 367, 132. 133, because you cannot have a 0.12 student, right? So 133 minus 97, 36 students. And I mixed it by 36 students. All right. Now, what do we do with this? Because data is meaningless if we don't have a plan of action. Is to what? Locate all the students who did not grow and make sure that the administrator knows where they are, the teachers know who they are, and there is a plan in place. That's when data becomes meaningful. Otherwise, it just sits there in a binder and a part of a plan. Oh, and also that plan is being executed and monitored accordingly. I forgot that part, sorry. All right, any questions Good news, right? Yes, ma'am. Just one and two. Yes.
Is there still the minimum number of participation?
25. Yes. But if you are like magically around the 25, it's very important to already put those,
But that's from kinder to 12.
Yes. Yes. This is K-12. Yes, ma'am.
Is it important for us to go and look back at the students who just came to our district and find out how they did last year so they can be on the radar?
Yeah. I would highly recommend that you run your report, all the students that meet that criteria, because those will be, you will be held accountable for their growth, regardless they were or not, in the district. And also, if they had Tel Pass, because if they came out of the state, then there's not gonna be that much. Yes.
Is next year the same 36% or is it going to be different?
We cannot foresee what next year is until they release those cut points based on how the state does as a whole. But like I said, in the past, we experienced those cut points, when they were moving up 4% points every year. It could happen that. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, it's time. Sorry. Your timing. My team is timing.
Sorry, the government's opinion is,
Yes.
was 36% again this.
Okay. So, but remember, everything is subject to change. I noticed, like, for example, when I did my slides, we didn't have that change in the manual for the first year, and now we have the first year. So everything is, I've learned in this business that everything is subject to change. And everything is subject to be denied to when it's the waivers to the Department of Education. Remember, that's why we had the ELB rate last year, otherwise it would be the first year, right? So just be cautious. And I would be more planning towards that 100%. To build that cushion between 100% and 36%. I know you're thinking, Enrique, you're not realistic. Oh, I'm being realistic. Because if we don't plan for 100%, we plan for 50%, what something happens, you're gonna be under that 36%. We want to be proactive and not reactive. And I'm gonna give you one more thing before I go, because I think and my time is up. One more thing. This example right here, and you can create your own example too. I'm sorry, I keep breaking my accountability. This example right here is your hook. When you present this to your board, your administrators, in principals meetings, because in this way, administrators will understand that that 10% counts tremendously. It can change your campus drastically. Did that with a couple of districts in the past month. The administrators that were in my session were like, oh, so I could have had a B in the main 3, does that mean that my whole letter would have changed? Yes. Why? Because of the 4, that you missed, 36% for 4 percentage points. That's why your whole campus was not a B and now C. Okay. Yes,
I just want to attest, so we were one of the districts that early on reached out to Enrique and just needed some more guidance on this. Just, I wanted to learn. And so we did do this with all of our principals. We're in Allen ISD. So we have 23,000 students, but our LEP numbers are small. So we did do this. We did it from the district perspective and individualized it by campus and set up district thresholds. And our hook, from Enrique's guidance of how do you get that personal investment from principals to understand that accountability? Because if we're waiting for our accountability directors to do this, they do the global macro perspective. They don't do it from the LEP perspective. And so when I went in to do this training, and I was very intentional with a private folder with their data, with our new thresholds. Now we did set a threshold goal. Ideally it would have been 100, but we didn't. But we set a goal for Allen, and we did the math of what does that look like for your numbers. We looked up at real numbers, and it brought up really good conversation on how to do an instructional plan, a language plan. We talked about content and language plan for each of your LEP students, and that was the hook. So it does work, even with small EL numbers.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller, from Allen ISD. And remember, when you have campuses that have very low numbers, well, I'm not saying that's low, but like between 30 and 90, every student, or 100, every student will carry more weight in that ELP, right? Okay. Also, one more thing. This is just 10 more seconds. It will change to something else. It's no longer the target improvement plan as part of the staging framework that we will have after RDA results are released. We have the strategic support plan, and there will be more guidance after the RDA results are released. We have sessions October, at the end of October, and also November for directors who would like some guidance on how to create that strategic support plan, SSP, which actually is something similar to that TIP that we used to have when we had a staging 3 and 4 submitted and staging 1 and 2 kept at the district level. Thank you very much, unless there is more questions. All right, and thank you, and sorry for taking so long.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna move to some updates from Region 10. These are the local updates. And we have a few things that we're gonna get you through, some announcements, some other information on the events that are coming soon this fiscal year. Okay, so if you haven't done so already, you can sign up for our Bilingual ESL listserv. Those are the links that will take you directly to our website, and there is an orange button where you will have to click in order to add your name and email to the listserv. So we have 2 listservs. We have the Bilingual ESL, which is the one that provides you all the updates, and then we also have the Title III listserv as well. Then we also have a Bilingual ESL Google group. Several of you are already members of that group. And this one, if you want to join, you may email Jennifer Phillips. Here is her contact information, and she can add you to that group. And that is pretty much just a collaboration group where you can kind of collaborate with each other. If you have any questions, if for some reason you can't reach us right away, somebody else might have that answer for you. And it's just a great collaboration tool. So email her if you want to be added. Okay, one thing that is coming out soon, and this is trying to, minimize the number of emails that go out to you through the listserv. So I know we have some timing, updates that come from DEA that we have to send to you. But when there is more like announcements or things that are coming out with Region 10, we are going to start sending a newsletter. So coming up, starting on the 1st of every month, we're going to send you a SMORE through the listserv. And this SMORE is going to have kind of like a month in advance. What is coming up for Region 10? What are the sessions that are being offered this month? These are some events in the area. If there is any event in your district that you want highlighted and that you want to invite the rest of the region to participate, send them to me or anybody here in the team, and we'll make sure to add them to the newsletter. So every 1st of the month, we'll be sending that out. So just make sure that you just keep us updated on anything you want included. These will hopefully give you an overview of what's coming. And our hope is that this information makes it out to more people, not just our bilingual directors, ESL directors, curriculum coordinators. We want this to reach principals, teachers, because a lot of the sessions that we have are targeted to administrators or to teachers, and sometimes we don't have a lot of attendance, and sometimes it doesn't make it up to them. If they happen to look at our website, they sign up, but sometimes you're not actively looking for a session, but sometimes something gets your attention, like, oh, this looks like a great opportunity, then you sign up. So we're hoping that this will pass, help us spread the word on the great things that are happening right here in our department. So feel free to forward once you receive that. Okay, Okay, so talking about better ways to serve you as well. So we are going through looking at data and looking at all of the different sessions that we offer. You know, there are some sessions that we get requested all the time. ESL prep being one of them. We can keep offering, you know, sessions like that. And we have some others that are content related that maybe sometimes are not, you know, requested as much. So we're looking at everything that we're doing in our department and trying to make updates and trying to see, okay, do we really need to keep offering this session? Is this something that districts are currently in need? You know, so we are trying to revamp some of our sessions to meet the needs of our districts. So when you think about, you know, you're a director right now thinking, oh my God, I really wish this was a session the Region 10 will offer for my teachers. I have teachers that are struggling on this. Teachers or administrators that really could benefit from a session with this particular highlight, you know, with this particular focus. So we need your help right now as we continue this year to work on developing your sessions. We need your help and your feedback to know what are your needs, so that everything we do really target that. You know, we have a school improvement going on right now. We talk about comprehensive professional development plans. Well, what's in your plans that maybe we're not thinking of? So this is the time, we're gonna give about 10 minutes, and if you click on that blue button, there is a link that will take you to a Google form. And this is pretty much just asking you, we have a list, we have 3 different strands, and it asks you if you have bilingual teachers, what kind of professional learning would you like to see us offer? If you have an ESL teacher, what kind of professional learning do you need? What kind of professional learning do you need for administrators? There's a list of things that we can come up with, but there is also an other. So if when you're talking to people at your table, you think, well, I'm really hoping that you could offer something like this, but it's not listed, please add it to other, and that will help us guide our planning process. So if you can please take 10 minutes, like I said, it's very important because this really helps us. Just take 10 minutes to complete this form, and then we'll continue with the update. So it's about 11:21. So we can take until 11:31 to complete this form. Feel free to collaborate with people on your table. If you have any questions for here, anybody can come and help you, and then we'll continue with the updates as soon as we complete this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
They're not gonna get it. Yeah, you need to understand.
Okay. Did everybody have an opportunity to complete the survey? Okay, you can give me just with your fingers if you need 2 minutes, 1 minute, 0. So I can get an idea of where everybody is. You have to those 3 zeros. 1 more minute. So I'll get 1 more minute just to make sure that you have enough time to wrap it up and then we'll continue. When you're wrapping up, I just wanted to say, somebody mentioned why are we hanging out on this side of the room instead of kind of walking towards the entire room. Just wanted to let you know we're recording the session and this is where the camera is. So this is the reason why and I forget sometimes and I start walking, I'm like, no, I have to go back because I'm not on camera anymore, so that people that were not able to make it, they can still get the recording. So that's why we're hanging out on this side. We're not trying to forget all the people on the other side. We're sorry about that. All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to complete that survey. We're going to take a look at your responses and then we'll, look at the data and share with you during our next quarterly meeting, just so that you know what are the trends, what are some other directors, coordinators asking for. And like I said, we'll take your feedback and that's what we're going to use in order to revamp our sessions that we currently have or redesign or redesign some new sessions to be offered as well. Okay, so we're going to move on. This is just an FYI. These are the dates for this year's quarterly meetings. Our next one is coming up in January. They're all already posted in ESL Works, so you can register far in advance. Okay. Compliance trainings. These are some of the compliance trainings that are coming up. They're all listed again on ESL Works, so you can register. LPAC assessment decision-making coming up. That's the next one coming up soon. October 22nd is the first session. These are all half-days.
Program evaluation is that's not correct. Program evaluation work sessions, there's only one, I want to say it's October 6th. But somehow that one over top got copied to the bottom. I don't know how that happened.
Okay, so program evaluation will pick that one. It's October 16th. That's the one that is coming up, and that's the only one that is listed.
Yes, because your program evaluation has to be submitted to the board by November 1st.
Okay. Then we have extension and waivers work sessions as well. We usually have the all-back decision making, and then in the afternoon you have the other work session, right? ESL newcomer immigrant refugee asylum quarterly meetings. You're welcome to sign up for these sessions as well. And these are being led by Sonia Riker, so you can come into the session.
Please attend our ESL newcomer NIATIC immigrants. I didn't have that last year. So immigrant refugee asylum quarterly meetings. And if you notice, we had last year we had a fabulous newcomer fair at the end in McKinney ISD, and this year Irving ISD is hosting our fair. So I'm even planning it to be even bigger and even more fabulous than it was last year. So attend.
That's the one on April 14th, so put that on your calendar. It's gonna be amazing. All right, and Title III trainings, we have more than 4. We have one for funding until it's not until the spring, and we have the next one coming up. These are parental, family, and community engagement on September 26th. So make sure you sign up for those. Additional sessions, these are the ones that you keep requesting. We're trying to add as many as we can. We have some options on Saturdays for those teachers that can get us out. We have some during the week as well. So it all depends on preference. We try to do different locations. We try to go north, south, east, west, some central, trying to just offer as close as we can to you. Now, there is also an opportunity to do it online. Our online course is now back up online through My Professional Learning. So if you go to our website, you can also have my teachers prefer the online platform. They're able to take the online course there as well. They get credit for taking the training. These are all just the face-to-face one day as well. Most of them are already posted on our website to register. I think we have Irving and Hotel. We're still trying to get them posted, but they should be posted any day this week. Okay. Some other sessions that are coming up, and these are being hosted in Richardson ISD, but they're open to anybody in the region. They're free of charge if you're part of the co-op, so you can register. These are more on the academic side. We have response to intervention through the ELS. So the academic vocabulary, that one is for K4, November 16th. These are all Saturdays. And then January 11th, we have meeting the needs of long-term meals, and then building academic vocabulary for 5th through 12th. These are all open now, and you can register. You can ask your teachers if you have anybody that has that professional learning plan that needs this type of training. They can go ahead and register now. Okay, so this link is what you can use in order to request PD with any of our consultants in the department, or even with anybody that is outside of Bilingual ESL. If you need a training in your district, you can complete this form, and this just gets sent out to us, and that's how we are able to assign a consultant to work with you in your district. So make sure you put that, save that link somewhere, and you're going to be here in the afternoon, just FYI, you're going to need that link for an activity, so know where it is. It's coming up. Okay, so that's the best way. I know a lot of you just usually can email and ask for sessions, that's okay, but then we'll send you back to completing the form, just because this form provides us all the information we need in order to get a consultant secure on the calendar for you. Okay, I'm going to let Jenny first talk about our conference.
Okay, so this year we're really excited because we're starting to prepare for our conference. So the annual symposium takes place, so make sure you please save the date, June 23rd through the 24th. There is a symposium every year, and this year we're just working to improve, and based on your feedback, we want to have the best presenters because we know our teachers and our students deserve the best. And so please make sure you say that. The theme this year is Power of Unity, better together. And just to give you some additional information, why are we doing this symposium? Well, Region 10, we have about 2,459 bilingual ESL certified teachers, and I'm sure that number is going to increase with the, increase in teachers taking this test and being prepared. We also serve 194,000 students that are identified as English learners. So this is 23% of the student population, which makes us the 3rd largest in the state. So this is why we're doing the symposium. We want to serve you.
And the purpose of the symposium is to refuel our minds in English learner, bilingual, biliterate, bicultural strategies to support our growing and dynamic population. So please save the date, share this with your teachers, share this with your campus administrators. We know that they're looking for something like this, and we hope to see you in the summer.
I hate seeing my instructor today.
Spanish Spelling Bee, who's excited? Come on, guys. Spanish Spelling Bee is coming up. Thank you. This year it's a little earlier in February. It's going to be on a Saturday so that more of you can attend. So Saturday, February 15th, 2020 already. Right now, tentatively, it's 7:30 to 3 because our plan has changed a little bit. We're going to have a spelling bee for 3rd grade, 4th and 5th, and 6th through 8th. So we've never done that before. It's usually been 3rd through 5th grade. But 3rd grade doesn't qualify for National Spelling Bee, but we still want to have one for them to kind of get them prepared for the years to come. So we're going to have one separately for 3rd, 4th, and 5th will be together, and then 6th through 8th. Okay, so all of that information is on these links. So you have access to this. The words to study are up there, rules and regulations. Everything is in both Spanish and English. If you want to register or kind of let me know that you're interested in participating, there's a form on there that you can fill out. You can participate in either all 3 Bs or just one. So if you just want to take your 3rd graders, you can just do that. If you want to just do 4th and 5th, if you want to do just 6th through 8th, it's up to you. Okay, so you can participate in all 3 or just one. And maybe if you're not interested in participating this year because you're not sure yet, I invite you to come and watch just because it's a lot of fun. Last year we had 5 districts participate, so I'm hoping to at least double that this year. Maybe at least 10 different districts. Right? And I already have a lot of people that have been emailing back and forth with information on that, so that's coming up. And if you have any other questions, please email me. I'd be more than happy to help you, sit with you, help you plan out your campus or your district one, or send you the information to somebody who has a lot of experience. I know you know where you are. I always send them to her. Where's Viana? There she is. Viana, I'm like, go to Viana. She's an expert. And Carmen too. So just email me and let me know if you have any questions. Yes.
Just, I wanted to add something real quick about the Spanish spelling bee. And I know because there is a lot of questions out there, you know, why the Spanish spelling bee? You know, we have an English spelling bee and Spanish is really phonetically, you know, why do you want it? It's not as a challenge as it is to spell in English. And let me tell you the reason, the number one reason is, one, kids still need to learn how to spell in Spanish, not only put in the accents, and we have many rules of the S and the C and the C, and you know, you have a lot of different rules, but number one is you want to build an opportunity for your Spanish speaker students to be successful. And this is an opportunity for them to feel successful. You know, it is in their own language. They need to take a step to feel that they can do something right before they can do it in another language. When I used to work in Grapevine Colleyville, and you know, our bilingual population was very small. So when I was an assistant principal, I started a spelling bee in Spanish for our dual language students. And let me tell you, the attitude of the students when they were afraid of stepping out of the shell and saying, I can't do the spelling bee, I'm not gonna be in front of you know, all these people watching me. Seeing them how they transform when they participated, and when they won their grade level, and then they went to the school B, and then the district B, and then we had somebody go to the national B, that their faces light up with pride, and it's an opportunity for them to prove you that they can do something right. And then that led into them getting excited about joining the English spelling bee, because then they felt like they could do it. So I really encourage you to do it. You know, 5 districts, it's great when we're starting, but how many? We represent 130 in Region 10. It is a free opportunity to really do something good for our kids. So please, you know, and also it's not only for your Spanish speakers, but also think about your dual language students that are learning Spanish. They can participate as well. It's a great, you know, opportunity for them to practice. So I really encourage you to do it. If you have questions, I know there are other people here that have done it in their district. I'm happy to share with you their, you know, the experience. I'll be happy to share mine as well.
I really want to see more participation because I think it's going to be great.
I could not have said that better myself. That was awesome. But yes, absolutely. And then also the pride the parents feel, because sometimes they don't get to see their kids participate in a lot of things. So seeing them up there, I mean, the pride is beautiful. And last year we had, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins come out, and it was a lot of fun. So I really do look forward to it, and I really hope that you guys can join, and definitely email me if you have any questions. You have my partner up here. I'm Rosetta, and this is Stone. You love the mic. You love the mic.
My voice. But anyways, well, we just finished our first mission for Rosetta Stone. It was the first week of October, as usual. So those activations will be readily available for you on October 1st. Hopefully a little bit before. It's something important that I want to remind you is that when you submit your order, the person who is submitting might not be the contact, but might receive the email with the activation code or the activation link, so you can access the new subscription. So please contact the person who was responsible for sending us the PO. I try my best to put the contacts from last year that I know they're still at the district working with at the same capacity, but I might have missed some. So it's going to go straight to the purchase order department or whoever is in charge of sending that order to us or to me. Please reach out to them and see if they receive the activation link, okay? Because you can set up your password and your login if you're a new district in Rosetta Stone. The next submission will be November 4th to November 8th. That's the second submission. It's good if you want to send your PO before November 4th, right? But try to keep it consistent as far as the format and the subject and everything, because we had one situation with one district, we received the PO, right? But it went to a different folder. So it went missing, right? Because for some reason the format, there was a blank space or whatever in the subject, and it just went to a different folder. So just make sure that your subject is according to what the letter states. November, Rosetta Stone will be, Sonia Garcia. She will be in charge of the Rosetta Stone for the next submission. So any POs, you will send that letter on time, right? Hopefully, right? At the time, probably October 15, and the second reminder before November 4th. And something else, we for the second time, we were able to get a free Rosetta Stone training. Wiley ISD will be hosting that. Thank you very much, Wiley. And it will be Friday, October 4th. The link is already, I sent you all the link for the morning and afternoon training. So it is, I attended to the last year to the training. It's very useful because it will give you the insight as an administrator on how to administer the account, right? Run reports, things like that, to show that your teachers are actually using it, the progress reports of as far as language for students and different other things that even people that were very well versed on Rosetta Stone found that very beneficial because they didn't know they had this feature. So also for teachers, because the trainer trains from both perspectives. So it will be very beneficial for teachers too to know how to effectively use that tool. Remember, it's not an hour every day facing the wall with the computer and Rosetta Stone or the iPad. That's not an effective way to use Rosetta Stone. So the trainer, who will be the same trainer as last year, she will, and she's from Rosetta Stone, she will walk teachers and administrators through all the different steps and answer any questions that you may have, okay? And again, it's morning and afternoon, 9:30 to 11:30, and then 12:30 to 3:30. The link is open, and please disseminate this in your campus. Some districts at the district level, they request some licenses, but also your campuses are independently contacting us, right? So please, if you have that situation, and they haven't gotten the email, because I don't have the, the email of all the different administrators in your campus, in your campuses. So please forward this email, so if they feel like their teachers or themselves will benefit from this training, they will attend. There's like 70 spots, 35 in the morning and 35 in the afternoon, based on previous numbers, okay? So this is the second year. Usually it's not a free training, but we negotiated with Rosetta Stone, and we were able to get that. So we're happy to do that. And are we ready for the next one? All right. Thank you. And who's next? Oh, the EL work. Who wants to close? Wrapping up. The boss. Our boss.
All right, I think this is all the information we have for you. We have a few extra minutes. If you have any questions, we're here to help you answer. I know it was a lot of information. It's like here's everything you need to know, and then we don't give you time to process. But really, I want to emphasize, if you can come in the afternoon, we do have that time purposely built for you to collaborate and process all this information that we just dumped on you. So if you're coming back at 1 p.m., we'll see you here. And if not, you're free to go. Thank you so much for coming. We will be sending the recording of the video to you and an email as soon as we get it ready, so if you need to reference back to any questions, but we're still here. If you have any questions that you need to ask us individually, thank you so much, everybody. Okay, we'll see you next week for those that are coming back.